Good morning, everybody. I know that following Daniel Pink and, in fact, competing with him for, and by the way, I'm very informal, so walk in. If this isn't going to give you what you need, it's not going to offend me at all. If you need to go and find something else to watch, I'm good. For those of you wondering why I'm wearing this cyborg-like thing on my head, our unit got a Google COIL grant to use Google Glass. We do distance education for the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences, and we are exploring how to offer our distance education students laboratory courses, because they don't exactly have the lab equipment in Afghanistan and other places that they might be. So what we want to do is use first-person point of view video and pair a student in the lab with the Google Glass up with a student at a distance and have them collaborate to work on the lab together, which I hope we will be presenting next year at TLT Symposium. But I'm wearing them today just to get used to them, so I'm not doing a whole lot with them. Anyway, my name is Stevie Rocco. I am the Assistant Director for Learning Design at the Dutton Institute and the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. We deliver the online courses through the World Campus, through the eLearning Cooperative, and just to resident web courses to students for our college. This is a talk that I've given a bunch of times. In fact, I gave it Thursday. That I worked on it with Michelle Lentz. Michelle lives in San Francisco, so when the talk needs to be given on the West Coast, she tends to do it. When it's on the East Coast, I tend to do it, and whenever we can do it together, we do it together, but we collaborate. So I have to acknowledge Michelle, because even though she's not here, she is very much a part of this talk. So let me just start. I know I have 45 minutes, which is why I'm talking so fast, because I can make this talk anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours. So I just adjust the speed at which I go. You do not need to worry about taking a ton of notes. I have a website where all of this stuff lives and is continually updated. I always find that if you get the PowerPoints and you take them home, then like a week later the link's broken and you're done, right? So I just put it all on a website and I just keep it updated. So I'll give you that website and then you can just go to. So don't write anything down, it's all fine. Let me just start by saying I'm not a lawyer. I did not stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I just have had a lot of experience with doing this over a number of years, and so I kind of, we've got some experience for the same reasons that you guys might want to know more about this stuff. So let's start with some context, and we heard a little bit about that this morning from Daniel Pink. The world has changed, right? It's completely different than the way it used to be 10 years ago. I borrowed this from David Wiley, who spoke at this conference 4 or 5 years ago. Just keep in mind, back then we were analog, we were digital, we were tethered. Teaching and learning was very individual, faculty member delivering to the student, empty vessel kind of stuff. And now we're digital, we're mobile, we're connected, and we're more about creating. I thought the whole idea of him talking about creativity, the whole idea of user-created content, right? That's really important now. The other thing is our funding models have changed. I don't know if you all noticed this, but newspapers aren't doing so well because there's no real pay model. We've gone to this sort of free kind of model of things, right? Is free the future, the freemium, that you pay for a little extra stuff, etc. So the advantage to us is that we can use the cloud, right? We can utilize things for free that might not have been free before, but free kind of presupposes the ability to use it, right? But is it really something that you can use? So this is what we call the non-lawyer's guide to copyright. So we're going to start with a very quick poll, which I expect you all to do very well on. This is me being positive. I actually think you will do really well. So you go to the web, you find a picture that would be perfect for a website, and you're going to use it to illustrate a concept in your college course. How many people say you can go ahead and use that because it was on the web? Good, you guys are great. No, you can't use it, actually. Just because it's on the web does not mean you can reuse it in your class. You put pictures of your vacation on Facebook, and you forgot to set it to friends only, so it's a public photo. And someone wants to use it for a book they're publishing. Can they do that? You didn't put a copyright statement on it or anything, so can they? How many people say they can? How many people say they can't? Good, you guys are doing two for two. Huh? They can't. They can't without permission. Well, that would depend on their terms of service. They have to be able to offer the service, so you kind of have to look into that. I think they changed. There have been some controversies over that sort of thing. Okay, so you're teaching a class for the first time and it's online, and you work at Penn State. You want to show the clip of a movie. A movie is one you bought. It's not copy protected. You're only going to show it to students registered for your class. And it's really the only video clip that's going to work to show this concept. Can you use that? How many people say yes? Okay. How many people say no? The answer to that is yes, you can use it according to Teach Act rules. See, you guys did really well. You don't need me. So let's go back to the thing. What is copyright and why is it so complicated? Copyright has a certain term. You know, you've heard copyright expires or it doesn't expire. So here's the rules. See if you can get this under your belt and just integrate it into your thinking. If the work was created after 1978, the term of copyright is the life of the author plus 70 extra years. So the minute they die plus 70, that's the length of copyright. If the work is anonymous or published under a pseudonym, or it's a work for hire, then it's 95 years from the date of first publication, or 120 years from the time of creation. And works prior to 1978 are more complicated than that. So clear? Clear to everybody? Everybody's good? We don't need any more? Right. So copyright says that you own the work and people have to get your permission and sometimes pay you if you ask them to use it. But when does copyright actually happen? Well, back in the 80s, they decided that the minute you put your pen on paper, the minute you type save, that's when copyright is applied, whether you say so or not, whether you make a mark on it or not. That's the reason that we always have to get student permission to reuse their assignments as examples in following classes, because that student actually owns the copyright to their term paper, to their work. We can't just reuse it without getting permission from them. Now, if you say to an A student, I'd love to use your paper as an example, the likelihood is that they're going to be like, yeah, it's fine. But the key is that you have to remember to ask. So then a lot of people cite fair use. You know, fair use and Teach Act. Can you use those things for your materials? Well, fair use, you know, it's funny. I used to teach high school, and there'd be faculty members with a textbook in the copy room for like an hour and a half, right? Fair use. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not fair use. Fair use says you can use, it's based on the belief that the public is entitled to freely use portions of copyrighted material, portions, for the purposes of commentary, criticism, or parody. Now let's think about that. Let's unpack that for a minute. Commentary means you're actually commenting on it. You're not using it to teach the concept itself. This is where it gets a little complicated. You're using a short passage, not an entire chapter, and then you say, well, you know, in this example, you can see the satire does this, right? That's commentary. That's fine. Criticism. Siskel and Ebert, for decades, were able to use film clips in their television show without having to get permission because they were doing criticism on those films. And so the clips were essential to the critical process. You're allowed to use them. That's fair use. Parody. It is what keeps Saturday Night Live on television, right? I mean, because it's parody, and sometimes the lines can be blurry, guys, you know, they're allowed to use it. So why is this so stinking complicated, right? This is ridiculous. Like, why can't they make it easy? You know what copyright's problem really is? I'll tell you. And by the way, this is commentary, so I'm okay. I'm good. Every single time copyright has been ready to run out on Mickey Mouse, there has been a lobbying effort and copyright has been extended. That's why it's so complicated and so long. So I love Disney. I just came back from Orlando yesterday, but in essence, it's really complicated, the process. So, but that's commentary, so I can't get sued, so I'm good. So now what? Now what do we do? Well, we've got a bunch of options, and I'm going to show you some today, and I'm going to show you some really easy ways to use them, which is why I'm talking really fast for this part, which is the boring part. Public domain, things that are in the public domain, and we'll talk about what that means and where to look for those things. GNU licensing, which is mostly for software, but it also occurs for other things. And Creative Commons, which is the bulk of what we're going to talk about today. So public domain things are things that are really free and open. They include most US government materials, and I say most, and you'll notice that that's in quotes, because I find that people tend to say, it's a government publication, it came off of a .gov site, I can use it. Not necessarily. These days, the government sometimes contracts with private companies in order to get materials created or data sets made. And in some cases, they will assign the copyright to that company as long as government workers have perpetual use. We came into this at College of Earth and Mineral Sciences. Big data set that the GIS program wanted to use. was created by your tax dollars at work, but the US government had assigned the copyright to the company that had created the data set with the idea that anyone who was a government employee should be able to access it. So Penn State Libraries pays $1,000 a year for us to get access to that government data set, because even though it is a government thing, that doesn't necessarily mean it's owned. So the caveat there is just check the terms of use on the publication, on the product, on whatever it is before you use it. Most of the time it'll be fine. Same for state government websites. We were doing a whole bunch of stuff with the state departments of transportation. Their terms of use will really tell you what you can do. And Wikimedia Commons, which is a great place. People put stuff up there that's like kind of more scientific-y. For example, the chemical composition of caffeine is up there, and there are several public domain versions of the image that you can use, because they're like, I'm not going to make $1 million off of this. Why don't I just let people have it, right? So public domain is one of the places you can get stuff. GNU licensing is really more specific to software. Many of you have heard of SourceForge, which is a good place to get open source software. There's also a place called EduForge. It's got open source learning management systems, blogging platforms, and things that are more geared to the classroom. But it's kind of a fun place to go and look at stuff. So then we enter Creative Commons. So copyright was created long before the internet. And we're trying to figure out in this new world of ours things that would normally happen, but now we want to happen. So what are we going to do? So Creative Commons is an organization that came together based on, to try to figure out how we can both keep people's copyright rights protected and yet still allow other people to use it, okay? One of the great stories about this is, you guys know the White Stripes? So Jack White of the White Stripes, there was this, they don't have a bass player. So this DJ took one of their albums and put a bass track behind it and kind of remixed things, and ran into Jack White, who said, that's cool, that's great, go for it. Record company was not as amused, right? Because there was no way for Jack White to say, I retain copyright of this work, but I would like to allow certain uses of the work. Now, I'm going to take a quick break here to show you a video, which is really fun and awesome. And we're not going to watch the whole thing because it's 5 minutes, and I don't have a huge amount of time. Here it is.
Enter one of the Internet's most famous citizens. A face familiar the world over, a public identity rivaled only by a handful of corporate giants and global superstars, the Big Copyright C. Everyone knows what Big C stands for. Big C means all rights reserved. Big C means ask permission. Big C protects copyright owners and notifies the rest of us of their ownership. Time was when you had to put Big C on anything you wanted to copyright, or else it entered the public domain, the commons of information where nothing is owned and all is permitted. You had to put the world on notice to warn them. That was Big C's job, and it was a useful one. What changed? The law. By the late 1980s, U.S. law had changed so that works become copyrighted automatically the moment they're made. The moment you hit save on that research paper, the second the shutter snaps closed, the instant you lift your pen from that cocktail napkin doodle, your creation is copyrighted, whether Big C makes a cameo or not. So suddenly, there's no quick way of knowing whether something's owned or not. The new rules may be clear about how you get to own a work. You don't have to do anything, but they say nothing at all about how you should go about announcing that you want to allow certain uses of your work. So what? Well, if you're a digital filmmaker whose every frame must be cleared by an army of lawyers before making the cut, or if you're in a band whose label won't let you put a song on a file-sharing network, or if you're a professor trying to put together online course materials, or if you're a DJ chasing down permission to use every snippet of song in your sonic collage, if you're one of these people, then you know, so what? We interrupt this brainstorm to call the lawyers. You drop what you're doing and call all the lawyers. You ask for permission, even to use a work whose author doesn't mind if you use it, because you have no idea what the author's intent is. You ask for permission, even to share some of your rights. Or you venture forward unsure what your risks and rights are exactly. Or, in a haze of legal doubt, you do nothing. The bottom line, Big C is out of a job. The middlemen are not. Enter Creative Commons. Creative Commons wanted to find an easy...
Okay, so they went and asked the U.S. Copyright Office what they should do. And the U.S. Copyright Office said, we don't have an answer. Go get creative. And that's where Creative Commons actually comes from. So Creative Commons is a series of licenses, and I'm going to be doing this talk today based on Creative Commons 4.0, which is the newest version of Creative Commons, and there's one new license that I just want to talk really quickly about. But there are a series of licenses, and they range in restriction from public domain or CC0 all the way through to full copyright. And I'm going to be talking about what each of these symbols means as we go through the licenses really quickly before we get to the good stuff, which is why you're here, which is where can I find all this wonderful stuff for my classes. This is the new CC0. It's CC0 1.0. It's basically a public domain dedication. Now, you can declare things in the public domain, but the thing about Creative Commons is that there are 3 layers of the licenses. There is the lawyer layer, which none of us can read. There is the human readable layer, which is the one that is like this, that is kind of sensible for the rest of us. And then there's a machine readable layer, and the machine readable layer will allow browsers and other things to know what the license on something is if it's on the web. So even though public domain doesn't need a CC license, it's nice to have that human readable, machine readable layer bit to go on. So CC 1.0 is brand spanking new. So the least restrictive license is CC BY, it's called. It requires attribution only. You're free to share it, copy and redistribute it. You can sell it, you can change it, you can take that picture of a horse and stick a horn on him and a rainbow coming out the back of him and make a unicorn. You can do whatever you want. And then you can sell it. And as long as you follow the license term, the licensor can't revoke those terms. Okay, so it's good forever. So it doesn't matter if they all of a sudden reattach copyright. If you pulled that image, once it had a CC license on it, you get to continue to use it. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's the least restrictive. Then there's attribution, no derivatives. Now, no derivatives means you can't put the horn on, you can't put the rainbow coming out of the back of the horse to make the unicorn. In some cases, it also means you shouldn't be cropping the image, right? You need to use it as it is given to you. Now, good news, just found out at South by Southwest Interactive at a panel last week that Michelle was at and happily relayed to me, that if you are doing a PowerPoint slide deck, the no derivatives, that kind of thing, and the share-alike non-commercial stuff only applies per slide. So you can have an entire slide deck that has all different kinds of licenses and just mark one, this slide is no derivatives, and make sure that that slide's clear, but other slides you'd be able to. So you don't have to take the whole PowerPoint as a whole. You can take it by slide. It's a little murkier when you're talking about websites and courses and things like that, but if you're talking PowerPoint, you can do it by slide. Then there's attribution share alike that says that you have to share as it was shared with you. Does that mean you can't sell it? Yes. No. It means you can sell it, but you'll also have to share it. So then you have to kind of think about this whole new freemium business model kind of thing. So share alike. Then there's attribution non-commercial. Non-commercial means you cannot sell it. You're still allowed to share it with other people, copy and use it. You're allowed to remix it and transform it and build upon it, but you are not allowed to make money off of it. It gets better. Attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives. Okay, you can kind of see how this is going. And they each have a symbol. See, this is non-commercial. That's pretty clear. No derivatives means it has to be equivalent. And the little person is all the attribution. That's the CC BY. Yes?
So if we're using material for teaching, are we making money off of it?
I would consider this, no. You work at a nonprofit institution. You're not going to make dozens of dollars off of your PowerPoints. I think you're pretty safe. Yeah. Again, didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. And then there's attribution, non-commercial, and share alike. I mean, so you can see you can kind of string these things together and they get more restrictive and less restrictive. When you're talking about works where they are all in one page or they are all in one thing, how do you know what licenses can go together? Because not all licenses go with other licenses, right? So a non-derivatives might not go with a share alike. Well, these lovely folks at OER Africa have put together a license compatibility wizard. And this will be on the website, so don't worry about writing down that ridiculous URL. you basically click over here with what license you have, and it gives you a little smiley face with the other licenses that are compatible with that license. So you can kind of easily see what goes together so that you know what you can use. Okay? So then the question is, when can non-commercial be used? And when I was giving this talk on Thursday, I had mostly e-learning folks in corporations who do training or who sell training. And that's where it gets really, really fuzzy. We're at a not-for-profit institution. We're pretty much non-commercial, even though students pay to take our courses. However, if you're unsure, always ask the copyright holder for permission. The example I like to use is there was a no derivatives image of coal, and I was trying to put together an image of 4 types of coal, but I wanted it to be one image. The only image I could find on Flickr of this one particular type of coal had a no derivatives. So I was like, okay, so I emailed her through Flickr and said, look, I'm doing this for Penn State. I know it says no derivatives. Would you give me permission just this one time? I want to make a collage of the 4 different types of coal. Woman emailed me back and she said, oh, I'm just going to change them all to CC BY. Go ahead. It was fine. Like, it wasn't a big deal. She didn't care. She just hadn't thought about, oh, that means she can't make a collage out of it. But here's the key. Even if there's a Creative Commons license on something, works cannot be primarily intended for commercial gain. Primarily intended, right? There's the differential when you're trying to use non-commercial. Here's the commercial test for fair use. Does it impinge on the copyright holder's ability to profit from the item? How many people use Twitter? You guys remember the fail whale? The fail whale when Twitter would go down, like at the beginning. It's not really used much anymore. The fail whale was an image from an artist in Australia. It was Creative Commons licensed. Twitter used it. But it impinged on her ability to profit from her other artistic work. So they went back and paid her for it to kind of make sure that they did it right. Okay, so you just need to keep in mind, don't impinge on the copyright holder's ability to profit. So there is a Creative Commons non-commercial use study, and there are links to debate the uses of non-commercial versus commercial, and I'll let you all dive into the research because I know everybody in higher ed loves that. So, great. So the important part of the thing, which I'm really going to have to go fast, finding the good stuff. How do you find stuff? Well, the first place you should start looking is CC Search. Creative Commons has a great website, fabulous FAQ. They also allow you to search for various and sundry things on their site. So you can use CC Search to find CC licensed images. And in fact, many browsers, and I believe Firefox is one of them, you know that little drop down where you pick what your search engine is in the top right-hand side? If you do that drop down, there's a CC Search that you can change your search from Google to Bing to Creative Commons and then do a Creative Commons search right from within your browser, which is kind of cool. Skip this because I forgot to put the image on. It's actually here. Microsoft Clipart. When I was working at WordCampus about 1 million years ago, we actually checked the terms of use. If you own Microsoft Office, you can use their Clipart. Surprising for Microsoft, but it is the case. I will be honest with you, I have not checked the terms of use lately, but I don't suspect that it's going to be any different because why would they offer Clipart to people who own Office if you can't use it in your projects? Let's talk about Google image search. Gotta love the Google, right? Do a Google image search, you sort it by non-commercial or the Creative Commons stuff I can reuse, and you go, right? Wrong. It doesn't work. Do not use the Google. What you will notice is if you do a Google image search, even if you click, use stuff I can reuse, there will be a little thing at the bottom that says, there is no guarantee that this copyright is okay. So I would say, stay away from Google when you're looking for stuff, okay? But Flickr is fabulous, and I'm going to do a demo at the end really fast because I want to show you a couple of really cool things. But Flickr has an advanced search where at the very bottom it says only search within Creative Commons licensed content and find content to use commercially, find content to modify, adapt, or build upon. Check those boxes. The only images you will get from Flickr will be those that are Creative Commons licensed and you can use, which is very cool. Then there is something called the Commons. The Commons is a group of organizations and institutions that have put together images that have no known copyright restrictions. Now, why did they do this? Well, the Smithsonian and other places have a whole bunch of images that they don't know what they are. They don't know where they're from. They don't know who's in them. So they all got together and they put together this great archive and said, we're just going to let people use this stuff and maybe someone can tell us more about what's in there. So it's kind of their chance to get information back to them about what they might be able to do, which is kind of cool. Okay, I mentioned newspapers before. Back in the old days when you had actual newspapers, you'd go out for a story and you'd take a whole bunch of photos, but you use one. Well, what happened to the rest of the photos that you took for that story? They went in something called the morgue file, which was usually like this filing cabinet in the basement. Morgue file is a place that you can upload to, but they also have a whole bunch of these morgue file images up there, and it basically says how they're licensed and whether you can use them or if you have to attribute them. The minute you click on one of the images in morgue file, it tells you what the terms of use are and how you have to cite it, which is really nice. So this is really great, like if you're looking for images from Hurricane Katrina or from an event, or something that happened that might be newsworthy, morgue file is a really great place to go. Then there's Wikimedia Commons, which is different than Wikimedia or Wikipedia. It's commons.wikimedia.org. There's a lot of really cool scientific stuff in here. Did an entire plastics engineering course. Where else can you find PVC diagrams, right? And they were public domain for the most part because, again, like the caffeine molecule, you don't necessarily think that you're going to make millions of dollars from an image of a caffeine molecule. So you can get like chemical bond images and scientific images, and there are photos as well. Every page on Wikimedia Commons will, once you click on the image, it will tell you what the licensing terms are right below it, and then it gives you some opportunities to share it or embed it or use it in your work. We did test it. If you use the image and frame it from Wikimedia, it is not as accessible. The person on JAWS will see the image, but they won't necessarily see the credit line that comes with it kind of automatically, so you may have to do a little extra crediting in that case, but it works. Let me back up really quickly. Remember we talked about derivative works? This is a new change for CC 4.0, and I forgot to mention it when we were going through the licenses because I'm trying to go really fast. In 4.0, if you use a work that allows derivatives and you make it a derivative, you need to say that you made it a derivative. That's new. New licensing terms say you need to link back to the work and you need to link back to the license. Those are the only two things. You no longer have to link back to the author. Although that's considered a best practice, it's no longer required. But if it's derived from something, then instead of saying, just giving the credit, you would say derived from blah, so that it's clear that it's a derivative work. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are just new rules. This is kind of cool. This is open clip art. It's just kind of, and it's just what it says. It's open clip art, so you can find clip art there. So if Microsoft Office doesn't have what you need, or you want a different style, open clip art is your place. And again, all of these are on the website, so I don't want people like frantically going, I missed the link, How many people here are instructional designers or support faculty members who are writing courses that are online? Just a couple? Few? Okay. One of the things that I find in our shop, and I know no one in here does that, is that we'll get a lesson from a faculty member to put up online, and there's all these great images in it. Have no idea where they came from, right? And sometimes the faculty member is really good at citing it and telling us where they came from, and sometimes, not so much. They're busy, right? Well, this is a fabulous thing. This is called TinEye. Basically, you upload the image, or you show the address where the image came from, and it tells you all the other places that image exists. It basically finds it. From there, what my multimedia specialist tells me is it doesn't necessarily tell you who owns it, but if you look through there and you find the largest version of that image, like the really big one, that's likely the owner of it. Does that make sense? Because nobody's going to put up a 5 gigabyte image, right, if they can put up a 200 kilobyte image. So TinEye can help you track down some of those things and find them so that you know where they came from and whether they're okay to use. So TinEye, kind of cool. So that's images. Let's talk video and media. There's a lot of places you can get video media. I'm going to show you the AV Geeks archive in a second. Wikimedia Commons also has some video. Vimeo actually now has some Creative Commons licensed video. YouTube has Creative Commons licensed video. So the other thing I want to mention is that Hulu has legally embeddable clips. So if you find a Saturday Night Live clip, if it has the little embed thing like YouTube, you can legally embed that on another web page. It's just like YouTube. The allow to embed is implicit permission, right, to put it on another web page, because you're not actually taking it. You can never download it. But you are allowed, if it allows embedding, then you're okay to put it on your site. You'll just need to keep an eye on whether or not it stays up, right? If it disappears, you'll just have to update that link. Now, YouTube searches happen a little bit differently. In most cases, you do, like Flickr, you do create advanced search, and then you say search within Creative Commons licensed content, and you search. For YouTube, you search first, and then you filter by Creative Commons to narrow your search results. So it's a little bit backwards as far as that goes, but you'll just say filter and explore, and then choose the Creative Commons, and it'll share with you the Creative Commons things. And again, you can't download it, but if it allows embedding, then you can use it. When you upload videos, you can upload them as public, unlisted, or private, and then your license and rights ownership are right there. So if you do choose to give Creative Commons to your videos, you can also do that, okay? Now, I want to show you the AV Geeks archive really quickly because it is amazing. There are a lot of people that want to use, like, they want to use, like, film clips. Archived order. And AV Geeks archive is really cool for ephemeral films. I'm going to show you one. Search ephemeral films for nuclear. This is great because sometimes what you can do is you can take these old clips and intersperse it with newer stuff to make something funny or to prove a point or to do something interesting. This is just a sample of one that's up there. See how the wireless is working today.
In any disaster, your livestock need protection too. In case of...
Oh, it froze. In case of nuclear attack, you will need a barn or other shelter for your livestock. Like literally, that's what they say. So I'm not gonna wait for that to load. But it's a lot of fun to go in there and kind of see the duck and cover commercials and things like that from the 50s and the Cold War that are around and you know you can kind of use and do things with. Audio and sound is the next one. Jamendo is a great audio place. I like to call it the fair trade site of music. Jamendo's cool. That is where the music that before we started came from. It was a Creative Commons, Josh Woodward. I kind of like him. So you can download it and use it. If you're going to be using it in a project, they recommend that you can go and actually pay the artist directly, and then Jamendo takes a small cut. So that's why it's like the fair trade version. But you can go into each song and listen to it and download it and kind of explore it. So if you need music, that's a really good place. And it's not terribly expensive to license something for a project that you might need. If you're worried about, the other sounds that you should know about, if you're looking for, I'm going to go back to this. If you're looking for sound effects, I'm going to hope that this works out better than, the first time I gave this talk, they always have a free sound of the day. And the first time I gave this talk in front of a big audience, it was a fart. And I was like, great. Because I was always tell them, we'll just listen to the free sound of the day. And then we got to the page, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. So if I search, these are really good for sound effects. So here's walking in leaves. And here's raking leaves. Let's see, raking leaves. Raking leaves? Raking leaves. Again, we're loading slowly. Oh. So you never know what you're going to get. Those are like MIDI files. What was that? Anyway, so free sound's really good if you need sound effects. Like, let's say you want something to sound scary, or just get some bleeps and blurps. People are always putting MIDI files and stuff like that up there. It's really, really cool. And Vimeo also has a music store now. So check out the Vimeo music store to get music from Vimeo. So that's music. Podcasting is a big thing. Creative Commons has a podcasting legal guide for you that you can use to help to guide you if you're going to be doing podcasting for your classes. A lot of people didn't know this, but games can also be Creative Commons licensed. So if you go to either Board Game Geek, you can look for open source games that you can then modify and adapt to use in your classroom or to use, just for fun or with your kids or whatever you want to do. So there's a lot of places Creative Commons can be used that are outside of what we've even thought about, right? So So just keep your eyes open and look for that CC thing. So, okay, I talked a little bit about how you have to attribute things. And you know what a pain that is, because you got to get the link, and you got to get the author, and you got to link to the license, and you got to do this other stuff. Guess what? This is going to be your favorite thing all day. Maybe not all day. Daniel Pink's going to be that. But it's going to be your favorite thing from this talk. How do you cite it? Well, there's this lovely little plugin called Open Attribute. Open Attribute is a plugin that works in Opera, Firefox, Chrome, WordPress, and Drupal. Remember I said machine-readable version of the license? If you install the plugin in, and you're on a page that has a Creative Commons licensed thing, it tells you that there is something on there that is Creative Commons licensed. And then it allows you to cite that material easily. And that's my intro to the demo. So let's say I want to go to this. I'm going to do boxer puppies, because every time I say boxers, I get pictures of people with bruises all over their faces. I'm going to go down here and say only search within Creative Commons licensed content. I want to be able to modify it, etc. I go to the page. Look at the puppies. Okay, so let's say we like this one. This is Boxer Puppy 1. I click on the image. It loads, gives me a nice thing. Look what just happened in my browser bar. The little CC image showed up. So that means I can go to the sizes, and I'm going to download this, and I'll just save it to my desktop. And then I go back to the photo. This is the order I usually do it in. You are free to do it in whatever order you would like. When I click on that, it says copy attribution. As HTML or as plain text? How would you like it? So I'm going to take it as HTML, and then I'm going to go into a class that I have, and I'm going to edit the page, because we need boxer puppies when we're talking about flooding. Very important. I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to just click on my little image thing, browse the server. This is the boring part where you have to upload stuff, right? So I browse, I go to my desktop, I find the really long thing with the puppy, I upload it, I choose it, I put alt text in because I care about accessibility, and I click OK. Now, my image is in there, but my credit isn't, right? So now I need to go into, and this is the kludgy part for some people, the source code, and I find the little image. So here's the little image of the puppy, and I just Control-V, paste, and I get all this stuff. And then I go down and I save my page. And at the bottom is the exact appropriate machine-readable, correct citation style for that image. So the undefined is because there's something happened on Flickr. But it's amazing. You do not have to keep track of it. You don't have to keep some listing somewhere of stuff. You use the little plugin, and it just copies and pastes it right in. It works for PowerPoint. It works for Word. It works for whatever you might need. And they've just updated it, so it does reflect the 4.0 requirements that you only need link to the item, link to the license. So I think that's pretty cool. And hugely, hugely time-saving. So I have some extra stuff if we have time. We have 6 minutes, but I wanted to first say if anybody has questions. Yeah?
So I understand that having the link when someone's interacting with a page, that citation is there, they can access that. If it's in a presentation format, though, is it sufficient to have the link on the screen?
I have the link on the screen.
And
That's sufficient. That's sufficient because there is a link back to the product, the PowerPoint, cites it properly. So you're okay. Yeah.
So if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, if I want to use something that's on the web that's got a more complicated license, and I actually go to the website in a class and I show the thing with all of its string around it, I'm okay.
In a resident class?
Okay, that was where I was going to go.
Yeah.
This is
If you're showing it ephemerally in a residence class, you would be fine because you're showing it on their site. You haven't taken it, you haven't downloaded it, you have not republished it.
okay. But now it's a blended class that also goes distance ed, which means it's recorded and people can watch it later, and people who were actually there live to go back and watch it
Right.
Am I clean?
No.
Even if it's in a closed system like Angel.
Well, if it's in a closed system, so here's the kicker about the Teach Act. The Teach Act allows you to use some of those things. There's a video clip decision tree that's on the Media Commons site, which is really, really helpful to let you know whether or not Teach Act applies. I also have it on my website. But the thing about that is with Teach Act, it's supposed to be as if it were a resident class. So like if you went in and showed them a film in your class, it would be okay for you to put it online for that week, which doesn't help them if they need to go back and review it for the exam, because you would be required to open and close it in Angel so that it was limited in time. Does that make sense? So Teach Act was supposed to help. Yeah, you know, kind of, some things are more helpful than others. Yeah, it's that limitation in time. Like you could leave it open for that week, but then if you have to close it and they need it later, they can't review it. So that makes it a little more complicated. Other questions? Yes?
Maybe do the thing that you have done with the open attributes that you do for your class online, but if I use a lot of PowerPoints and a lot of pictures, it's a foreign language class, so I just want to do like sometimes image, like an image and a word.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do all of that, because I use a lot of pictures.
Sure.
And yes, I don't know where they're coming from. Do I have to do that HTML and everything? I do that in the PowerPoint? Or?
I would use the plain text in that case. So all of these, what I did was I copied the attribution by plain text.
Yeah,
And
but it would be like we are having like picture and one word.
right.
If I put a lot of links, but then two pictures.
Yeah, it can get messy, and it's considered okay to put that stuff at the end.
Is that okay?
I prefer, well, and especially in videos, you do it as part of the credits. But I prefer to actually have it on the page. That way it's clear what image goes with what. I just make it really, really small. But if you prefer to put it at the end, it's certainly okay to do so. Okay? Yeah, the concern that happens with that, and this happens more in corporate than it would in higher education, is if somebody takes your PowerPoint, pulls out 3 slides and uses them, the attribution's gone. You see what I'm saying? So they've kind of dissociated it. That's not necessarily your fault, but that's one of the reasons that I prefer to have it on the page, if that makes sense. Yeah, other questions? Yeah.
So if, right now, for instance, I'm working on a journal, and part of what we're doing before the journal gets up and running is we're curating content, we'll have to review the journal reviewers and things like that. We post a snippet of that, we attribute the authorship, and link back to the source. Are we included?
Are you charging
No.
for the journal? The journal's free? You might be okay, because you're doing more of a track back, link back, which would be more like blogging.
Right.
You might be okay, but it might depend on having more information about what your particular context is. If you were charging for the journal entry, then no, you probably wouldn't be.
It's not commercial.
Yeah. You can also, I mean, just as a quick thing, just send an email to the people that you're curating. They'll probably be thrilled.
Yeah.
You know, so that's always that.
For educational purposes, can you just say image and give the location of where it came from? I mean, if you have to worry about whether it's,
What license it has?
yeah.
Yeah, you do, actually. The requirements of the licenses in order to be in compliance with the licenses require that you cite them that particular way.
So it's not like somebody's citing text from a book.
No, it's a different citation style, yeah. Well, I mean, you're citing it here. It's just that you need to have a link to the license too so that it's clear.
But I'm saying, what if you got something that doesn't have a Creative Commons license? You're just using something from a website and you're saying
Right.
image credit, like a Pepsi logo or something.
If you're using that as commentary, criticism, or parody,
So there's no educational thing added to that?
not really, no. No. We've all been doing it for decades, but it's not considered useful. Yeah.
But going off that point, like, let's say an art professor.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly. The bit.ly up there, that goes to the website that has everything, right? All the links to all the sites, everything is up there. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, with commentary for like an art professor showing a certain image that's famous and probably copyrighted.
Right. That one's a tough one, and you might want to talk to Gary Chin about that. Actually, Megan's here. How did you guys handle that in arts and architecture when you were there? If they wanted to do commentary on a very famous painting which was copyrighted, did you guys get permission, or what did you do?
It actually depends on.
It's okay.
It actually depends on how you intend to use it.
Yeah. I would say if it falls under commentary, criticism, or parody, it would be okay, but it's sort of like the Uncle Eli's Mona Lisa that's down there, because that's a parody, or it's been down there for years, it's fine, but
But it also depends on the output.
sure.
If you're putting it on a web page with commentary, well, then that's one context. But if you're creating a video in which you're including commentary on the artwork, then that's a completely different thing too.
Right.
So it's circumstantial.
Yeah. Any other questions? We're running a little over. Okay, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.